Okay, in this video we're going to finally get down to some of the good stuff in JavaScript, the DOM scripting type stuff. We're going to get into scripting, actually in this video and the next video we're going to talk about scripting the document and scripting CSS. In this video we're going to cover selectors, tag properties, and the attribute property. In the next video we shall go over the query selector, tree style navigation, attribute selectors, and element manipulation. So a lot of this stuff is the kind of stuff you can do with jQuery. It's a tiny bit faster if you use native JavaScript to do it, like get element ID instead of $ID whatever. It's definitely easier to do in jQuery, but you could save yourself that 30K jQuery payload if you don't need to load that, and then the actual execution of the JavaScript is also significantly faster, but we're just talking about microseconds, so it's definitely small improvements, but if you're doing the kind of website or web app where every millisecond counts, you might look into using the native JavaScript as opposed to using jQuery, the jQuery library for this kind of stuff. Anyway, it's super good to know because if you're writing really complex stuff, you might have to do it anyway, or if you run into something where somebody else wrote something using native JavaScript, you'll have to know how to do it anyway, so it's super good to know. So selectors. The most common selector using native JavaScript is get element by ID. So all these things are properties and methods of the document object. So it's document.getElementById, and then in this parameter here you just throw in whatever ID you're looking for. So in this case we're grabbing this div with the ID of box. We do document.getElementById box, and then we're gonna grab the inner HTML of that element. So that just means the HTML on the inside here, the text on the inside. So this is just going to output howdy to our console because we're console logging it. Also, with this native JavaScript stuff, you got to worry about all kinds of cross-browser headaches that you don't when you're using jQuery. jQuery's pretty solid about cross-browser stuff, but when you get into native JavaScript stuff like this, stuff like this one in IE7 and lower, this is cap insensitive. So usually you have to have your caps right. So if your ID is, camel case or something, you gotta put the same camel case in here when you're trying to grab it. Except in IE7 and lower, this is case insensitive, and it'll also grab something by the name. So if this were name ID in IE7 and lower, this would actually grab that as well. Okay, so the last example we did get element by ID. Here we're going to do get element by name, so we're going to grab it by the name attribute. We're also going to talk about how you can grab something by the tag. So in this case it would be like grabbing it by the text area, the tag type. So ID, name, tag type. You can also grab stuff by class and stuff like that, which we'll get into later. So in this case, grab elements, and this is plural, grab elements by name. Box. So anything on the page with the name attribute of box is going to get grabbed and stuffed into an array-like object. So we're actually grabbing the first element here in this zero-based array. So here's our text area, and here's the inner HTML getting console logged out. Now, because this is grabbing an array-like object, we can grab all the items on the page with the name of box. So in this case, we're going to console log out the inner HTML of the first and second one. Like I said, you can also grab elements by their tag name. So here I'm just going to grab all the elements on the page with the tag of div, and then I'm going to grab out of that array-like object the very first item and log out the inner HTML. Note that this is cap insensitive in all browsers. So here I'm going to mess up the capitalization. It's going to be D capital I V, and it's still going to work. Also note that whenever you grab an element using like document get element by ID or tag name, you can also run get element by tag name on that element. So if you have nested elements, like a P inside a div, you can grab the div and then run get element by tag name on that div and grab any P's in this case that are inside of it. Okay, enough about straight selectors. Let's talk about tag properties. So native JavaScript has in the document object a property for, or different properties for common tags on the page. So in this case, we can do document.images, and it'll create an array-like object for us of all the images on the page, all the img tags. So if we do images 0, it'll grab the first image on the page. And since there's no inner HTML on this guy, we're just going to grab the attribute source, get attribute source. We'll get more into this later, but just for now, know that what we're trying to get is this cat.ping out of the source attribute. That's what we get, cat.ping. So with these tag properties, you can do it for like images, links, forms, stuff like that. So let's talk about links real quick. Document.links. Grab us the first link in that set of links, and it grabs us the inner HTML. We can also do it with forms. Document.forms, grab me the first form and give me that inner HTML. So we can grab tag properties like images, links, and forms, and it'll give us an array-like object of all the elements of that tag type on the page. We can also grab elements by their attributes. In this case, we're going to talk about class name. Okay, so document.images 0.className. So this is saying, hey, give me the class name of that image. The class name is test class. Now, when we grab class name, it's actually grabbing just the string of all the classes in there. So check this out. Here we have two classes, test class 1 and test class 2. Of course, classes are separated by a space in your HTML. So this is just going to spit out a string of both those classes, test class 1, test class 2. And you can also do stuff like getting and setting the attributes here. We'll talk about get attribute now, and we'll talk about set attribute later. But so I'm saying, grab me this element, and then tell me what the value of the source attribute is, and it's cat.ping. Okay, so that's there's actually one thing I skipped. I want to go over real quick, and that is forms. When we're grabbing things by the tag property, you can do document.forms to grab all the forms on the page. And then you have a couple other options with forms. You can follow the form by the name of the form to grab a specific form. So this is saying, hey, grab me all forms on the page, and then from that list, grab me the form with the name of my form. But you can also grab it, that specific form by ID instead of name, and the syntax is exactly the same. So document.forms.myform, but we're looking for the ID of form. The ID of my form, excuse me. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you in this vid. So we went over selectors, tag properties, and the attribute property. In the next vid, we shall go over the query selector, tree style navigation, attribute selectors, and element manipulation.